What's in your wallet?
I'm so old.
I'm going to give it a 1 out of 5 explosive hot dog carts.
Ritualistic blood magic.
Laser shooting chesty statues.
Don't watch movies unless we tell you to.
Welcome to Movies with My Best Friend Phil, a movie podcast for South Korea and no other country. I am the host, Phil Kessel, joined as always by two of my very best friends in the whole entire world who happen to not be from South Korea, but please don't hold it against them. I've got the host, Craig Norland. How's it going?
Am I the bad host?
I actually can't tell you which the host you are. You just you know it in your heart.
Am I the host from the other movie, The Host, so I have another person's sentience inside me?
We'll get into that.
Okay.
Also joined with us in Holy Matrimony is the host, Will Chodas.
Hey, Phil, how you doing?
Did you know we were married?
I did. I've been trying to get that annulled for a while now, but I haven't been trying that hard. So, you know,
I think the time limit ran out on annulment.
Oh man! So it's like but Amazon returns.
I only think that because I don't know what annulment means.
I think
I thought annulment was like when you do you send an email in Gmail and you have the ability to unsend it real quick.
It's like,
and divorce is like the email got to the person, they read it, and then you have to confront them about it. Is this not accurate?
I don't think so.
I think isn't it where when you get married, you set it up to where it's easy to get divorced or something?
No, it's when you get married and then you can reasonably sort of say within a couple of days, we shouldn't have done that. We were both drunk.
Okay.
I always thought that it was if you could prove you didn't consummate the marriage, but I don't think that's true.
Oh, prenup. That's what I'm thinking of.
No, I think that's true now. That's what's in my head.
But yeah. So, anyways, it might be too late on that. Oh well.
Yeah. Little bit of news on the old Fitz front.
Oh, and who's that?
How dare you?
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, your nickname for your wife.
That's my son.
Oh, no?
That's my baby boy. I birthed him.
You did, using your own wiener.
He came from my womb.
Yeah.
Didn't like that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like it either. It hurt. I know all about childbirth because I birthed him.
Yeah. So what's the news on the Fitz front other than he went camping and got all wet?
No, I mean, that was it.
Oh, okay.
We took him camping. It was his first time going camping, though.
I follow him on Instagram. He's not very active, which is a little disappointing.
You know, we got that criticism recently from someone else. So, points made, heard.
Yeah. It's because I saw an update and I was like, oh my God, I've been missing all the Fitz updates. And then I looked at his page and I was like, oh, no, I haven't. He's just not much of a poster.
Been posting. Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I hear you, Fitz. It took me a while to get to it too.
Yeah, he'll soon become a Reels star, just like his uncle will.
Not a star.
I mean, you're a star in my heart.
I know. I am 4,000 followers away from being a micro-influencer.
Damn.
Yeah, right?
That's awesome.
Is it?
I'm going to be friends with a micro-influencer, and he'll have a micro-influence on me.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. And at that point, I can start make pennies on the pennies on my videos.
That would be sick.
Mm-hmm.
All that extra scratch coming in.
Yeah, all those extra sticks of gum I can get.
The balloons.
Splurge on one of those little M&M things you get at that only seem to exist in the Oconee Islands.
Yeah.
You know?
You could buy a newspaper.
Yeah.
Although I think that's too expensive now.
Yeah, I don't know how much it costs for a newspaper.
What's a newspaper? $30?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fitz loved camping, but I will say he freaked out a little bit when we got in the tent.
Oh yeah.
We dried him off, and then we all got in the tent, and we were like ready to go to bed. I was in my sleeping bag, and then he just will not settle. He's just like jumping at the walls of the tent, which like,
oh, that's
y'all
no
have
good.
been in a tent. That's not great. And I don't know what it was. If it was just like, it was like as soon as we zipped up the tent, he was like, "Oh, I can't leave.
I'm
Oh
trapped."
no, I don't want that."
Yeah.
And he was freaking out for a while, but then he calmed down and he slept pretty much the entire night, and it was great.
Nice.
And so now he's a camp dog. And the more fun fact, we saw a cattle run
Oh yeah.
on the way home.
Uh-huh.
And I was so excited. It was so cool. So we like pull up to a bunch of stopped traffic, and then we see in the distance there's just like hundreds of cattle just on the road and like running off road, and they're going all over the place, and the road on one side slopes up,
Mhm.
and they're like trying to climb it, and the other side is a raging river. It was a wild time, and I got really excited. And Jack has been making fun of me since, because when she took a video, so there's video evidence of this, but I was like a little child getting real excited about it
Because of cows.
because it was just a bunch of cows, and there was a cowboy
Yeah.
and a cowwoman, and
I
then
think
there
it's
was
a
a little
cow
dog.
gal.
And then there was a little dog, and they were just trying to get all the cattle. And I don't know if you guys know this, cows are really cute,
Mhm.
and I would like to meet one day and become friends with it.
Mhm.
So, but it felt like the most Colorado thing that could have happened. We like went hiking in the mountains and camping in the mountains, and we went to this like cute little mountain town, bought a souvenir, driving back through the mountains, and there's a frickin' cattle run that went awry. And then we drove up a mountain. It was great.
Yeah.
It was very fun. That's not like my recommendation. I don't recommend it, but also I kind of recommend it because I had a blast.
Speaking of cows,
Yeah.
so
Mhm. Oh, really? Whoa.
No, I got it. Okay. Speaking of cows, sometimes you slaughter them,
Oh.
and when that occurs, you take their skin and you make it into stuff like fun little hats and pants and other things. And sometimes
Gloves.
you take those things, and it's ironic because you usually need one of these things in order to purchase the thing that you're buying. To keep the money that you need to buy the thing that you need to buy.
Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And
It's
so
a real catch-22.
it is a real, because you're like, how can I buy this if I don't have this to keep the money and to buy this with?
And that's exactly how the story of Catch-22 goes. There's an old man
Yep.
in the sea, and he's like, hey, I'm going to toss this money to you on shore. You got to put it in something. And the kid's like, what do I do?
Craig,
And then
what's
he
that thing
swears a
called
bunch.
again?
A wallet.
That's right. It's the segment where we reach deep into our best friend's pants and whip out some recommendations. It's what's in your wallet. Hey, Craig, why don't you go first? What's in your wallet?
Great. I am still in the middle of it, so a soft recommendation, like half chub recommendation to
Awful.
that was for Phil. Sorry.
You're
This
darn right it
half chub
was.
is for Phil. Your mom listens to this podcast. Anyway, so my adventures with Superman. The second season's out now. I just finished the first and just started the second. It's kind of an anime style version of Superman
I like that.
that I've heard really good things about in the past.
Does he cry waterfalls or like a different kind of anime?
If
If he like makes an
it's like-
error like a social faux pas? Does he like immediately fall over?
It's not quite there. Like the style is definitely anime, but it's not like the big, like little mouth when closed, huge mouth when open. A lot of those other things, like you said, like just tears streaming down, or like, there's a lot of anime stuff, but it doesn't quite hit that. There's a lot of real. I don't know what is even the term for that, where it's a show that is in the style of anime, but it's not made by Japanese, so
Fake
it's not
anime.
American anime.
American anime. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if
it's
there's
just
a style.
No, it's just the style now. Like it's
Just anime inspired.
It is the Ouroboros of animation. That anime was inspired by Disney, and now we are inspired by American. Animators are inspired by anime, and so like it's just the circle keeps going round and round.
Yeah.
Ouroboros keeps kissing its own tail.
That's what it's doing.
But it's so far it's probably my favorite version of animated Superman. It's definitely it's him just starting out at the Daily Planet, and it's more about the relationship he has between Lois and Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, I just saw that Jack Quaid is Superman.
Yeah,
which is cool because he plays Huey in The Boys.
Boys, yeah. So it took me. I was like, I know this voice. Who the hell is? Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So, it's and the main villain group is it's not Suicide Squad, but it's like, what do they call it? Task Force X.
Yeah,
is the main, like, so Amanda Waller's basically the villain of it, without it being a bunch of actual villains that being the people. It's more of they got a hold of alien tech and now they're running rampant. So it's good.
Nice.
Phil, right up your alley.
Yeah,
for sure.
Is this
usual?
Is this on
HBO Max?
Okay, yeah.
Yep. 10 episodes per season.
I'm actually
sort of
still only logged into HBO Go. Am I going to be able to watch it?
Oh my god. This isn't a joke, I'm sure.
I actually never paid for HBO Go.
HBO Now, HBO Go. Which one's which? Who knows?
Yeah.
Is some of you might have heard last week, the actor Donald Sutherland passed away.
Did hear that.
And I've always been a big fan of him. And one of his more well-known movies that I hadn't seen is the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And it's always been on my list for a long time. I have seen the original from the 50s, and I enjoyed that one a lot.
Is the remake with Donald Sutherland, is that the one with the meme where he like points?
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, okay. All right, I thought so.
Yeah. One of those movies that is spoiled for you just because it's memed all the time, which is unfortunate, but it's, man, I just really like movies from the 70s. I just like the style, and I don't know. There's just something about it. I can't explain it all the way, but he's awesome as usual. It's got, oh gosh, I should have came prepared, but I wasn't. It's got Leonard Nimoy as one of the characters, which is crazy that he's in a movie that is not Star Trek. Sorry. Okay. Brooke Adams. So she was in Days of Heaven. Been in a bunch of other stuff, but that's what I know her from. She was really good in it. Jeff Goldblum, Veronica Cartwright. This is right before she was in Alien. She's really good in this too. So, yeah, I would definitely seek it out. It's been one of my favorite movies that I've watched this year. So if you want a nice paranoia soaked thriller, this is a great one. And it takes the premise from the original film and kind of amps it up a little bit. Also by putting it instead in San Francisco, where everyone's obsessed with self-help books, because that's what Leonard Nimoy's character is. And so it's kind of interesting.
I've read the book.
Okay.
But I have actually not seen any version. But it was like one of the earlier sci-fi books I had read.
Okay.
And so it has always been stuck in my head, and I feel like I really should see probably both of those versions.
There's 4.
There's 4. That makes sense. Why
there's 4.
there?
Yeah, there's one from the 90s that's like on a military base, I guess. And I think there was one from the aughts, but
and then there's the faculty,
first 2,
which is like,
and then there's the faculty,
basically the same thing, but set in high school, and I love that movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a
so
very long time, but I remember loving it. But extremely influential, as you just said. There's how many episodes of TV and how many movies reference some part of it. So yeah, it's great.
Something about anti-communist science fiction that I just have consumed a book version of.
Wait, you're talking about anti-communist, so capitalist consuming things?
Oh,
what?
Yeah. The joke wrote itself, and I didn't even realize. It's wonderful. Well, I'm going to watch the Superman show for sure.
Okay.
I'm going to try and watch Invasion of the Body Snatchers because, again, I feel like if I'm supposed to be a guy that likes sci-fi, I probably should have seen a version of this. It seems weird that I haven't, but I read the book, so now I can say like, oh, well, I read the book, so
yeah,
the movie just doesn't do it justice.
Did you watch any of The Flies?
No.
Okay, that's another.
There's a lot of
another Jeff Goldblum in a remake.
As you guys know about me, there's a lot of movies I should have seen already, and I have not seen them.
I'm the same way though. It's
there's just too much to
too
consume.
many, and it's like.
Yeah.
Once you start pulling on that thread, it doesn't like get smaller. It doesn't like they don't get like used. You're never like there's still just more movies that somebody will think you should have seen.
And if you think about it this way, between the 3 of us, so if you've read Fahrenheit 451, when society collapses or whatever happens at the end of that book, they've got people who have memorized specific books. They didn't memorize all the books. They just memorized specific books. So between the 3 of us, if you guys have seen it, I don't have to see it. I just have to make sure that you guys survive the apocalypse with me. You know what I mean?
No.
The logic is there.
Okay.
I feel like it's flawless.
So you guys can disagree with me on this.
I probably will. I love doing that.
You probably will. I feel like from the late 70s to the late 80s, there's about a 10-year period where that's about the only time where remakes were good. So you have this movie, you have The Fly, you have The Blob, you have The Thing.
I've never considered that before, but I think you might be right because it is sort of that is kind of interesting because so many classic movies that you think are original are actually remade, and a lot of that started in that's always been the case. Movies have always been remade. Like that's another one of those things that people are always like whining about. It's like there's so many movies that are sequels or remakes, and it's like, well, it's always been that way, guys. Chill.
Yeah,
it's remakes all the way down. It
just usually doesn't work.
Yeah, you're right. Some movies don't need to be remade, you know, or you learned the wrong lessons. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and it feels like a soulless cash grab. Like my favorite thing is like after the success of Batman, the Tim Burton's Batman, there was like a slew in the 90s of like 1940s serial like superheroes coming back, like the Shadow and the Phantom, and like and like all of them were terrible, and it was like, guys, people didn't. It wasn't the 1940s crime noir aspect that people loved. Like, what Are you serious? Like, yeah.
Nobody's in love with Dick Tracy. You can stop now.
Like, and also, the only one I think that worked was Zorro. You know what I mean? That was like the only other one other than Batman.
I will say,
arguably the Mummy too. Yeah,
I've seen like 4 versions of the Phantom now because I've seen that remake one. There was another remake on the Sci-Fi Channel.
Oh my god!
I want to say there were like 2 or 3 remakes on the Sci-Fi Channel.
The Phantom wears like a purple leotard with like a hood. It's the
not in the like the one of the Sci-Fi Channel ones that I watched. They made him like he's got a suit that's got like purple tinge to it, but it is not like
it's so dumb.
Purple
Who
suit.
cares? Like,
well, it's also the origin of the Phantom is that he like went to either an island nation or somewhere in Africa and like became like a god, like a Black Panther style god.
So many of these stories are racist to the core, and it's just like there's no
weird.
We don't need to revive this. It reminds me of like the Lone Ranger or whatever when they like suddenly did that and they're like, hey, we're gonna have Johnny Depp play Tonto, and everyone's just sort of like, wait, what are you doing? Like,
checks the date to see if it's April Fool's Day. Like, what a terrible choice. Because that could have, it could have been fun. It could have been like, The Mummy was fun and great.
Remember
and
when Seth Rogen was the Green Hornet?
Okay,
gosh,
listen, I know you guys are going to attack me for this, but I enjoyed that movie when it came out.
I didn't see it. I was just sort of like, when I heard what it was, I was just sort of like,
I thought, because who plays
what? Why? Huh?
I don't remember the name of his
Kato, right? Isn't it like
Kato? Yeah. Who plays Kato in that?
I don't know.
It's Jay Chu, who was in something, I think, that I saw. Maybe it wasn't that. I just liked him in that. And I thought Seth Rogen was funny in it. But like, I'm aware it's probably a bad movie. I don't.
Intervention.
Yeah, fight me on it.
Yeah, it was. I just feel like it came out the same year that like Green Lantern came out, and then also like Arrow on the WB came out too. So like it was like, hey, let's just take all the green superheroes and put them out right now. And it's like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me just check. Oh man, Will. Green Lantern came out the same year, so you're dead on. Arrow came out the year after. So
right.
You're like, you're very, very much on.
Yeah,
very close.
I do remember that. I was like, why are all the green ones showing up? Like, what is this? Yeah. Whatever.
Nah.
So, Phil, what else do you got in your recommendation pile?
I have been watching, Craig brought up anime/anime inspired media. And stop me if I talked about this already. I've been watching Delicious in Dungeon on Netflix. It's great. So the premise is in this like fantasy world. It's like high fantasy. There's magic. I don't know if it's high fantasy. I can't remember the difference. It's fantasy. There's magic. There's swords. There is this dungeon on this like island that like a mad mage created after this empire like fell apart, and the dungeon has like all these creatures throughout it. There's different levels, and all these adventurers go in and they dungeon dive. So they go in, they fight a bunch of monsters, they take the stuff and they go and sell it or whatever. But it's hard to keep going further and further because you need to spend days and days in there, and you can't bring enough food to survive. So the main party we're watching decides to start eating the monsters, like cooking the monsters into different like recipes and stuff. So the show ends up being like half anime food porn, half fantasy action.
I thought you were going to say, and then just regular porn.
I mean, it is the internet, so I'm assuming that it exists.
Yeah.
But it's so anime historically has the most delicious looking food in it.
I know.
So this just kind of like this just ramps it up it's fantastic. So they'll like cut up a monster, and the guy will like explain what he's doing and how he's cooking it, and here's how you want to do this, and you cut it up this way, and then you put it in this like sauce and whatever, and then they do like a wow, and then it's just like a still shot of the meal, and it just looks so good. But they're eating like what's the cockatrice or something like that, and it's just like gross, and all the characters are like really grossed out about it until they try it and realize it's super delicious. There is like an actual through line for the plot, but up until like episode 7 or 8, I think you kind of don't really. All you know is they're trying to get back down to a specific layer of the dungeon because the guy's sister got eaten by a dragon. And up until you get to that point, that's all you have really for story. It's just like random cool fights, random good-looking meals. And then they get to the floor that they fought that dragon on, and then the story starts getting really weird. And I have not finished the first season, but it got greenlit for a season 2. I want to say before the season finished airing. So people are just really into this show. It's a very fun watch if you've only got like 20 minutes. This is short episodes. Just throw it on. It's fun. It's goofy. I think the thing so far that I've loved the most is that the dungeon has like an ecosystem that they talk about where like the creatures aren't just magically there. They eat certain things, and there's like certain things that are keeping the bigger, more dangerous monsters on the lower floors, and if you ruin the ecosystem in such a way, then the bigger, more dangerous stuff is going to get up to upper floors, and then no one's going to be able to do anything in the dungeon. They've had so many clever ways that they have the monsters, like the mimic is not just like a magical I'm a treasure chest with a mouth. It's like a hermit crab that lives in the thing, which was really, really cool. So they've done a lot of really cool D&D inspired things, but they've done some really clever twists. It's great. I love this show. It's so much fun.
So are they assuming that she's still alive inside the dragon?
So in this world, you can revive people fairly easily. It just costs money.
Oh, okay.
Just like real life.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah.
So they're hoping that they can get down there before she's fully digested, so they can bring her back and have her be revived.
That to me is always interesting when that mechanic is entered into something like Dragon Ball Z, where they have the Dragon Balls, and like at one point during the Cell saga, they're like training, and Cell is like leveling cities, and Goku, our hero, just goes, "Don't worry about it. We'll just bring them all back with the Dragon Balls. We need to train." And it's just like, you're just sort of like, okay, Goku, the hero of our story, that doesn't sound unhinged at all.
Well, they kind of, they don't really like deeply go into it, but in the show, like the characters are really just not too freaked out that like his sister got eaten by a dragon, and they're kind of just like, well, we'll just come back.
Yeah, we got to fix this.
This and then
annoying.
like other characters get killed, and they're like they find like party members of other parties that are like dead on the ground, and they're like, oh well, we'll just leave them. Somebody will come by and grab them and bring them to the surface, and they'll get revived eventually. And it's just, like there's just weird things like that. That's like if you
video game
really die, what would it be like?
Yeah,
and it's weird.
Yeah, well, that's like Borderlands is sort of like that.
Yeah.
Where like no one in Borderlands can really die because they just get brought back
unless
to
they're
life.
Poor.
Unless they're poor. But then like everyone in Borderlands is like is the most insane person you've ever met. So you're just sort of like, I
is there a correlation between dying a bazillion times and being batshit crazy?
Yeah,
probably. Anyways, watch this show, and then come find me, talk to me about it. or come to my house and watch the show with me. And then we'll go get food that looks good like the show. Somebody make me anime food, please.
I'm playing Dave the Diver right now, and
I've heard that's really fun.
It's really fun because half of it is you're fishing, and like you're diving down, you're getting certain fish, and then the other half of it is a management, like you're helping run a sushi restaurant. And so Pete's watching me play this, and he's like, "Oh, have you ever had sushi?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure, I like it." He's like, "Can I have sushi?" I'm like, I mean, yeah. So I'm gonna try and get Pete into sushi.
Yeah.
Hell yeah! God, I love sushi.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. William, the host, William.
Oh, me? Oh, this one?
The host, Craig, and the host, me, have done ours. So now it would be time for the host, you.
Oh, okay. Well, so my recommendation is an album. I recently...
You like music?
Yeah, it turns out. So fans of the pod and personal friends of mine will probably heard me talking about James and the Shame, which is Rhett McLaughlin's Rhett from Rhett and Link, Good Mythical Morning YouTube fame. He went off and did his own solo project. So he came out with a new EP, which I got as
up the vinyl.
As a vinyl. And the reason why I was going to talk about it earlier, but then I ordered the vinyl, and then basically the company that he went through, I got a notice in the mail that was like, "Hey, just so you know, you're involved in a legal situation because you ordered something from a company that went bankrupt, and so now you're out $40 if you want to see if you can get that money back, et cetera, et cetera." I was like, well, that sucks. And so the company that was making the vinyl went out of business, apparently it affected a ton of different people. Like it wasn't like a small town vinyl company. Anyways, so I was like, oh great, I guess I'm just out, and also I don't get the album, which I kind of really wanted,
Yeah. It's the worst possible situation.
Yeah. And then so and I was kind of like, and so anyways, and then Rhett came out and was like, "Hey, so just so you know, this happened. That sucks. But luckily, this isn't the same company I make albums because him and Link will make albums for Good Mythical Morning." And he's like, "So I'm just going to use that company and use some of, because he's like, these were supposed to be separate. I wanted to keep them separate, because it's his solo project versus, but he's like, I'm going to make it good. So don't worry about it. If you ordered it, you don't have to do anything. It's just going to show up way later than it was supposed to because I have to go through a whole different thing. And yeah, apparently he took a loss on the sales and stuff. So I was like, yeah, that's really cool.
Andy had to mix his personal business with his shared business, and I know that's trouble because you never let me into your Instagram reels.
Well, first off, you've never asked, and
what? I ask you all the time.
No,
in my head,
what you do
and
is
I type out the words and then I don't send it.
No,
and I hope that you just get the vibe.
You've pitched me a few ideas, and every one of them I've rejected, and that's not the same as me saying you can't do things. That's me saying come at me with a better idea than
that feels like it's the same thing to me.
It's not.
Dang it.
So anywho, I would like to play a song from the album. I'm gonna play. So this is off the album, Nothing Left to Love. There's also a song called Nothing Left to Love. This album is, I think it. I don't really know what the difference. Phil, do you know the difference between an EP, an LP, and an actual? I don't know what this is. It's one of those.
Oh yeah, for sure. So an EP is an executive producer, and an LP is a lantern producer. And the difference in vinyl.
Okay, yeah. So never mind. So this is one of the ones that's not a full album. It's like a half album or whatever. So it's only 6 songs. But there are 2 songs off of it that I really enjoy. And Nothing Left to Love is one of the good ones. But the other one I really like is I Think I'm Supposed to Like This, which Link is featured as the backup vocal, so I'm going to play a little bit of that. Oh, yes. Trigger warning. It's country western music, so if that's not something you like.
If I find the exit, I'll push open the door. I don't mind the alarm anymore.
Yeah, so...
Maybe I don't belong here.
So anyways, yeah, so this song is just like him basically being kind of whiny about like how he doesn't like doing anything anymore. And the older he gets, he doesn't like doing things. And basically, every single one of the lyrics, I was like, I can see myself getting that as a tattoo. But yeah, no, it's interesting because like his original, the Human Overboard is the first album he came up with. He did as James is the Shame and the Shame, and I definitely like that album more, but I think these two songs are like better than the other songs, you know?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because I think they're just like, you can just tell he's like kind of figured out how to write songs better, I think, just a little bit.
That's cool. That's cool.
But it's the other album is just this like is emotionally connective for me because it's basically all about a man who grew up thinking, you know, he was going to be a pastor or a youth pastor or something like along those lines, and realizing much later in life that he doesn't even believe in God anymore. And so there's a lot of interesting sort of stories from that aspect. And this is more just like, you know, just kind of like more one-offs, I suppose. And yeah, there was a song on this album called Small Man, which is all about his grandpa. People. Yep. Oh. And who he never knew because for whatever reason his grandpa was just like kind of a distant man or whatever, and then he died before he ever got to know him or anything like that. And you know, I don't know why, but like I liked the song when I first heard it, but for whatever reason today after my run it came on and I just started sobbing because for whatever reason I found it incredibly just devastating. And because of this idea of like there's, you know, like, and we all have like, I've had, you know, a handful of relatives die. And actually I recently had my aunt die, and she was an aunt who I enjoyed, but I never like reached out a lot to her. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like sort of hard to reach out to people who kind of aren't in your life. Anyways, so I just sort of like, it suddenly like hit me in a way that I didn't connect to. Anyways, I just really like this stuff. And I'm like, if all country western was like emotional and thought provoking and like interesting and not some pandering shit about how the only way to be an American is to have a dog and be an asshole or whatever. Yeah. I would definitely like it more.
So on like the same two things, on similar notes, Casey Musgraves is an artist that Jack and I really like that has that country vibe, but like old school country vibe. So she's got an album that's just really good, and none of it really feels pandering to me. So I really like it, and I'm in the same boat where like there's a lot of country I could like and could love. But it's so drowned out by
crap
stuff I hate. That it's really hard to sift through and get to it.
Well, I think also the thing that was a real like entryway to this was the fact that like Caitlin and I discovered Good Mythical Morning like, I don't know, 6 years ago. And just like as I was watching it, I was like, holy shit, this is just like me and any one of my friends, you know, like
I've told you every time I watch it, I want nothing more than to quit everything and just be an internet idiot with my friends.
And
that's all that happens when we watch that show. I'm like, could I do this?
And when I first started watching it, I didn't like Rhett at all. And I realized it's because like, oh, the reason why I like Link more is because a lot of my friends are Link and I'm Rhett. So I liked, you know, the person who's more like my friends, you know? And so, I don't know. So I think that's also what makes it an interesting sort of, there's a parasocial relationship occurring where I'm like, sort of like going like, yeah, if Rhett met me in real life, we'd be like best friends.
If you guys knew me, you'd be.
Yeah, he'd
be
like me.
best
And then I'm
friends.
like, oh, I hate that thought just popped into my brain.
Yeah. Yep, that's fair. The second thing, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
on the like vinyl train,
Yeah.
is I purchased this.
What?
Ooh, nice.
That's
which
actually
is, Hey Arnold, the Music, Volume 1. Full disclosure, I have not listened to it yet, but let me show you what it looks like, which, yes, obviously this is an audio medium. This is not going to be good for anyone but me and Will and Craig, but...
Oh, wow. So it is
wow.
very purple and blue and just like multicolored and has like kind of very interesting splotches. I don't know, like all throughout it. Yeah, they've really, like, the vinyl records these days they use are gorgeous. You know, like this one is just it's speaking of Nickelodeon, it's like the most Nickelodeon orange.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good. I'm just really excited because I love the music in Hey Arnold because it is just like rainy New York jazz half the time. And it's
Now,
great.
is it just the music or is it like songs? Like,
So it is
Like,
the
does it have the
music
country song that Mr.
okay.
that Mr. Wynn sings. It
Mr.
does
Wynn
not.
sings.
This is
Oh.
like the background music.
Oh,
This is like
okay.
the soundtrack album.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And
I had a Nickelodeon album that was all a bunch of songs, but like I liked the Hey Arnold ones. I always liked those ones a lot.
it's so good.
So I do have another recommendation. It's a very small one.
Yes. Oh, I'm
But-
so excited.
But
'Cause I saw it.
I got something for my birthday called a stylophone, and let's see if it'll work. Let's see. There it is. Yeah, and so you just play it with a stylus. It has like a little keyboard on it, but like. Anyways, so
Oh,
it's
man, that's
just like
cool.
playing Game Boy music, and it's like,
Yeah, it's so perfect. You were just playing the Hey Arnold theme song.
yeah, I was, wasn't I?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So, Will, you're the coolest person we all know now, right?
yeah, that's what I've been saying for years.
Oh, okay. Well, it took me this long to realize it.
Anyways,
It's
yeah,
a fun sound.
it is super fun. And yeah, it's fun to play because it's super easy for to play with my kids.
With a boy.
The boys, so they can just like goof around with it and yeah. So
I love
that's my recommendation. Stylophone, check them out. They're not that expensive at all, either.
Perfect.
Speak
Speaking of
interesting
not
sounds.
that expensive,
Yes, and
did we
purchasing
make this one?
squid. That's what we were talking about. Interesting
Yes.
foods from different cultures.
yes, absolutely.
We watched a movie that features some of these things.
Yes.
That's right. We watched. Oh no, it disappeared. Okay, we watched The Host. The Host. Let me try again. That's right. We watched The Host, which is a 2006 South Korean epic monster film directed and co-written by Bong Joon-ho. Should I really try and pronounce all these Korean names?
You know, I was going to text you about this earlier. I don't know.
I don't think I should because I don't think it's going to do them any justice, and it's not like
Song Kang-ho, Yoon Hee-bong, Park Hae-il, Bae Duna.
mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah. So it's 119 minutes long. It had that's right. That's wrong. It's had a $11 million budget. It made $90 million. So good for them. So the log line on IMDb for this movie is: a monster emerges from Seoul's Han River and begins attacking people. One victim's loving family does what it can to rescue her from its clutches, which I think is pretty accurate.
Yeah.
How do you think this movie is doing on Rotten Tomatoes?
Hi.
I'm going to say
gonna say-
92%.
Phil?
Price is Right. I'm going to go 93.
Phil's got it exactly. It's 93.
Yes, double points.
72 audience score. So,
Weird.
Just a bunch of racists,
That must be
you're
it.
Probably not wrong.
That must be it. Yeah. So Craig, Phil, you picked this movie. Why this movie?
I watched this movie. It wasn't in 2006, but it was because I didn't like cool movies until later. This would
Some would
have been
argue.
maybe.
Never mind.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue I might not like cool movies now. 2010 probably. So well after it came out, but before people were into it. So I was I was on the early edge because I had friends who liked cooler stuff than me.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly you guys, but at this point
Not
it wasn't you guys. But I got it recommended by someone at the same time I watched Old Boy and Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance and a couple other Korean movies. And it was just so cool. I was like, this is awesome. I loved monster movies. And this was just a really awesome monster movie. So I was like, I would like to revisit and see if it's as good as I remember. And Stephenie Meyer can write a mean script for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great movie.
Great Stephenie Meyer vehicle.
Yes.
I feel like I had discovered this around when Snowpiercer came out, because Snowpiercer is a much more American style film.
Same director.
And
Same director, but
English.
Yeah, in English. And while it has some of the, same actors, it's mostly American actors. So
the director seems to use the same cast members a lot, I've noticed, which is cool. I like that.
I don't know when I saw this the first time. I feel like it was before Snowpiercer, but it might have been after, because I know I knew about this movie for a while. But like you said, I didn't watch cool movies for a while, so.
Did any
Not
of you,
until I started suggesting them, right?
Yes.
have any of you guys seen Okja?
Not yet.
I saw that movie. That's a weird movie. So Okja is about basically the dystopian future where we've created the next cow or whatever, and this is about a little girl who befriends one of these creatures and tries to save it. And it's like the whole time I was watching it, I just kept going it was too serious and too silly at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Because it was, but I definitely liked it. I was like, this is fun. It's it felt like a swing. You know what I mean? Like a real, and what's her name is great at, oh my gosh, she's a weirdo and everything. Tilda
Swinton.
Yeah. So, anyways.
I knew it before you said that.
Yeah.
But I definitely would have known it after.
So this movie, at the time it came out, was the highest grossing film from South Korea.
I mean, that makes sense, because I remember when this movie came out, 2006, I would have been, sophomore in high school or so. And I remember, I think maybe it was Brad who was talking about it, because it seems like something he would have seen, his brother would have picked up or something,
seen.
And I remember my first thought, being 14 or whatever, was South Korea makes movies? I thought they weren't allowed to do anything, and then it's North Korea.
Yeah.
And it was also one of those things where it's I thought only Americans and Europeans made movies. I guess Japanese. And then it's just because our greatest export is our culture in America, and so everyone has watched our movies, but we don't have the same, luxury, I suppose. Anyways.
Yeah, we really don't. import.
Yeah. Oh,
as
it's
much,
getting
or at least
better.
then.
It's definitely getting
certainly.
better.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
2006, maybe not.
No, definitely
as
not
much.
me. No, in 2006.
At least into Heartland.
Yeah.
So when it came out, like I said, it was number 1. It is still number 7 for South Korea, with everything above it. Nothing I've ever heard of in my whole life.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, number 1 is called The Admiral, Roaring Currents, and then Extreme Job, and then Along with the Gods, The Two Worlds, Ode to My Father, Veteran. So the only ones on the whole list, I just watched Exuma, and that's number 16. Train to Busan is 18. And then Parasite, surprisingly enough, is all the way down at 24. 27 is Snowpiercer. So a couple of his movies have been pretty big hits.
Nice. So Craig, how'd you feel about this movie? How do you feel about it? Because actually, no, I was the only newcomer to this, wasn't I?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay.
How did you feel?
I liked it. It's definitely like it is a good movie. Like it's competent in all the ways that a movie needs to be. Obviously it being a 2006 movie and featuring a CGI'd monster, half of the shots I was going like, ugh, that looks awful. But it didn't really destroy any of the tension at any points. I do love watching movies in a different country, especially Asian countries, because a lot of their just like how they operate is different than the way we operate. You know what I mean? And I just mean like, I was like, wait, his job is he like lives in a vending hut, like in a park? Like that's his life? Like, what is that? Is that a life you can have? Is that a life I kind of want? Well, that's weird. Anyways.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, no, I mean, I liked it. I was actually really surprised. I assumed, just based off trailers and the fact that like, it's billed as a horror, that it was going to be much more horror-y. This to me felt very much like a Steven Spielberg sort of movie, where in the sense where it's like it's got heart, it's got kids,
like more of a Super 8.
Yeah, it's got kids,
great.
it's got heart, it's very family oriented, it's filled with bunches of humor. You know what I mean? Like it is very blockbustery in this way, and I was kind of expecting it to be much more like gory, or like the second they introduced the whole family, I was like, well, this sucks because I don't want any of these people to die.
Yeah.
And in that way, I do feel like I kind of my only critique, and it's kind of a big one, which is that I don't really know what this movie was trying to say. Do you know what I mean? Like, and maybe you guys can help me get there. And I'm open to it, because like I sort of like felt like I didn't know what this movie trying to be like. Was it against, you know what I mean? Like so many horror movies or like disaster movies are like trying to tell you the importance of something or other. Or like trying to, I don't know. So I just sort of felt like I didn't know what it was trying to say. And maybe that's something I'm asking of my movies that they don't necessarily need to be doing, because now that I think of it, I'm like, what the Jaws trying to say? That's a great movie, but
don't go swimming.
It's pushing back against the influence of Americans.
Yeah, I was going to say there's
South
a real
Korea.
anti-American
there is,
message in the movie,
Yeah.
which was definitely done purposefully.
Yeah. Like with
Getting
that
the chemical
American
at the
character.
end.
Well, yeah, the American character who like at the very beginning is like, I can save this. I'll save the day. And he gets eaten right away. Yeah.
Or even beginninger than that,
right,
where
yeah.
the American guy is like, oh, just dump all this shit down the drain.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm ordering you to do this. And the guy's like, isn't this like bad for the river?
Yeah.
He's like, no, I don't care. And then probably the biggest or most obvious like anti-American
Right.
is the Agent Yellow is the chemical at the end.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's like Agent Orange. It's like that one's pretty
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
right there
And
for the taking.
I guess that is sort of like theming. Like I guess.
But there isn't like I feel like there isn't a lesson in this one.
No, not really.
It's just a thing that happened.
Yeah. The main character is also a character I didn't find myself understanding all that much as well, because he's like a deadbeat dad who like steps up, who also maybe is brain damaged. I didn't understand. Like when his dad talks about him as a young boy, I was like, wait, what happened to him? And so
yeah,
it's not that I wasn't having fun. I was absolutely having fun and enjoying every minute of the movie. I just was I kind of felt like I was like, it did sort of feel like, you know how like somebody will tell a joke and everyone will laugh really hard and you'll be like, what was the joke? And then they explained it and you're like, oh, I understand the joke. Maybe I just didn't think it was that funny. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's kind of like, not quite that, but like, yeah, maybe a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Anyways, Craig, how did you feel about this movie on your rewatch?
So the first time I watched it, I was like, I don't really see what all the hype was about. And I still kind of feel that way. I think it is a very, like you said, it's very competently made. I enjoy the characters for the most part. I feel like it really, like the third act really drags, like from going in from the second to third.
Trying to remember.
Like just
yeah.
Just like you leave off the sister gets knocked into a
hole. There is a little bit of this like sort of weird like so and so passes out, calls them right before they pass out. Another person passes out, calls them right before they pass out. Then this person wakes up conveniently right at the. It's like this weird sort of like I was like, what? This is strange.
It just felt like there was too many. Like, it's not that bad that they had all the family there, but it's like, I don't feel like they didn't develop their characters enough to be super necessary. It could have been the dad character and like his dad dies. And so he's now, is by himself and he's got to save his daughter.
I did really like the older, or I don't know if he was an older brother. I think he was a younger brother. The younger brother who went to college and like, yet still couldn't find a job and stuff. I don't know why. I found myself going like, that's me. That's my character. The guy who's like, everyone's like, we have so much high expectations for you, and you failed. Now you're an asshole. Why are you so angry? Yeah.
Yeah.
I identified with the main guy the most.
Oh yeah.
Lovable goofball idiot.
Yeah.
That everyone just kind of
way too big of sweatpants.
Yeah, and so Craig, that makes you the sister.
Okay, I can be good at archery.
Good at archery, but chokes a little bit in the national competition.
And also slow, I guess. Like,
yeah, she's
physically
slow. She can't move fast.
Yeah,
she runs. She really
does
slow.
Later.
It's okay. So I think one of the things I loved about this movie when I saw it the first time, and what I absolutely loved about it seeing it the second time, is that they all kind of suck.
Yeah.
Like everyone in that family kind of isn't.
Yes.
They are not characters that I recognize in American media most of the time.
Yeah. Yes.
They're kind of like realistic in terms of like, oh, they're kind of good at this one thing, but they also they have so many fatal flaws. It isn't like I have one fatal flaw and at the end of the movie I get over it.
Yeah,
they're kind of all shitty.
Yeah, there's a weird tropey character, like the main character, which is the failure with the heart of gold, who's like I feel like this is maybe something I'm picking up from anime, but there's always like the secret superhero character, like Vash the Stampede or something like that, who is like secretly incredibly powerful, but like seems like a loser, seems like a failure. It's Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball is like Goku is this little kid who's incredibly powerful. And like I got that kind of vibe from our main character, which isn't really an American trope at all, I don't think. Like this sort of character who's like got hidden power and is sort of a goofball. I don't think so. It's not.
Yeah,
That's not a character in American media.
The thing that's coming to my mind first is Spider-Man, but that almost ends up being two.
No,
it's almost two characters.
Yeah, well,
where,
no, that's the alter
Peter
ego.
Parker
That's the vigilante.
it's the alter ego thing.
That's different.
Yeah. But that's all I'm coming close with. So
yeah, I guess.
But
but where the dad character, whose name I don't remember, he is very much a like everyone thinks he's a failure, and yet he steps up when things get real, but he does screw up. Like he grabs the wrong girl's hand, and he instead of grabbing his daughter's,
which is like the way they show it. It's like such a horrible thing, but it's like so understandable because they're all running from this monster. And then they fall down, and he goes and reaches and finds a hand that is the size of a small child's, and he's not looking back. He's just running, and he grabs the wrong girl's hand, and it's like the family berates him for it, but it's like it feels like such a...
Yeah.
I mean, he berates himself probably more than they do.
Yeah, well, and it's his brother who does the most amount of berating, and his brother is obviously like angry at... This character, that character I enjoyed because like any character who has misplaced anger, I'm like, hey, that's me every day, all the time.
So I was reading that that character was sort of an out of time character where like that is a stereotypical like Korean personality or like Korean group. Sort of, I'm gauging sort of how we have like, if you're watching like a show or something and there's a Vietnam vet, how they're going to be portrayed in that show.
Oh,
this was sort of,
because he had a couple interesting lines where he was like, "I can't believe I fought for this" and stuff like that. Because he seemed like and I know nothing about. I know that there was a Korean War,
and I think that's what he's referencing it. And with that character, but it's just shifted out of time. That was my take on what I had read.
Oh, okay.
Because he's this like he's like a former, like he was in the military in some capacity, and you can see it in some of the scenes where he like is way better at certain things than he has any right to be. When they go to capture him or try to capture him at one point,
suddenly like
he throws something to like shut the lights off. And then drops down and just disappears and like escapes a group of like 20 guys.
Yeah, no, he like shoves something into an
electrical
He
does
outlet
an electrical socket thing.
Of course, what he shoves in is into a circuit break, is into a surge protector. So I was like, well, that's sort of the point of those things.
Well,
so it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
but fine. It was fun.
But like he's this character that has this military background. And then it sounds like he comes back. He goes to university, probably on like a GI Bill type thing.
Well, his dad said like, I paid for your college. Like this I
didn't
paid
remember that.
So like that to me is also why I liked the character a little bit, is because part of the reason why he's probably so angry is because he knows everyone has a right to be angry with him for not succeeding after fail. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so I'm like, misplaced emotion.
He was like a protester at one point.
Yeah.
So like you get these little glimpses, these like very tiny glimpses into their past, but you really don't see a lot at any given point.
Yeah.
But he also is just like, he's angry and he also kind of just isn't.
And it was very much one of those things where like I felt like I would have understood this character's background better if I understood at all the history of South Korea. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he was like, oh, I can't believe I did this. And he's like referencing something in the past that I'm sure a South Korean would go, oh, I know exactly what that is. And me being incredibly ignorant to so much of history, it was like,
Yeah.
Yeah. Phil, how did we say how you felt watching this for the second time coming back? Or
I don't think so. Not officially. My official stance is I loved it.
Good.
I still loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it when I first saw it. I loved it this time. It's got so many silly bits and it's got so much heart.
Yes.
Which for me, like, if you put enough of that into a movie, I will forgive a lot of other things. If you put enough of that genuinely into a movie, I will forgive a lot of other things. And like, this movie's not perfect. The special effects, I will say, for a 2006
they don't look
low-budget
bad.
movie, they hold up really well.
No, they don't look.
It's Peter Jackson's It's Weta Digital.
Yeah, I mean, they don't look like. They look like they're from 2006. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like, I'm not going like, oh my God, this is so bad. I'm just saying.
No,
like,
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
There are definitely a few scenes where it does pull you out a little bit.
Yeah.
But they do, I think, just because they worked with what they had.
Yeah.
I feel like it has aged better than other things I've seen from the same time period. And then given that this was like a small movie compared to like a big budget studio thing, I was watching it and I was like, honestly, not bad.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
Like, sometimes it looked like, you know, a really, really good Sci-Fi Channel original movie. You know, other times it looked like a PlayStation 3 cutscene, you know, and you're just like,
yes,
that one wasn't great.
I mean, it does help that the monster is a very unique looking monster. Will and I talked about that a bit. You know, because it's hard to make interesting looking creatures because
and I also feel like this movie avoided something that I've seen other movies do, which is when they don't show you the monster and then they do show you the monster. And sometimes that payoff is not worth it, especially if it's incredibly CGI'd. You know,
Cloverfield.
So I think maybe it was Cloverfield. Did A Quiet Place do this too? I think A Quiet Place did it as well, where like you never saw what they were, and then you finally got to see them, and you're just like, oh yeah, they're just aliens.
I can't remember what they looked like in that movie.
It was one of those things where it was like, why did you hide it from me? The payoff of it just didn't exist, you know? Whereas this movie, right out of the gate, in broad daylight, we have our monster running around. And we know exactly what it looks like, and I think part that to me was sort of like, you know how like when you go into a movie, you have to like, if it doesn't meet if you have different ideas of what it's going to be, it can make the movie going experience either be super fun and surprising or kind of like grindy because you're like, you keep wanting it to be what your original expectations were.
Yeah,
I had both of those with this, where I was excited because I liked how much it wasn't what I thought it was going to be and how much the characters were relatable and it was funny and like, you know, and then, but also at the same time, I kind of felt myself going like, I kind of thought there was going to be a lot more like death and dismemberment, you know, and there just wasn't, you know.
Yeah, it's honestly not that violent of a monster.
No.
Like, it eats a few people, and then there is a scene where it, like, spits out a lot of bones.
Yeah, right. And that's gross.
So, like, it does do a lot of killing, but it's not a lot of on-screen
No,
gore.
This is one of the few monsters that feels like an actual animal in a lot of ways.
And I was just going to... the way they introduce it, I think, is really cool, because it's not like the monster just appears and starts eating people.
Yeah.
It's hanging from under a bridge like a creature just would. It's like doing a thing that an animal would do. It's just hanging from under a bridge, and people are like, what is that? That looks weird. And they're like throwing stuff at it.
Yeah, that to me.
And then it sort of like uncurls and drops into the water and kind of slithers. It's such a cool introduction to a monster.
Well, no, I also just loved how normal of a response all the humans had, which people go like, oh, if this was me, I'd be running away. It's like, no, that's how you would behave if you knew you were in a horror movie, which isn't how you would actually behave, because you would never go, oh, now I'm in a horror movie in real life, you know? Yeah. But they all like see it jump in the water, and so our main character sees it jump in the water and he just starts throwing stuff at it, to see what it would do. You know what I mean? And to me, that was very like, yeah, I would probably do that too. I'd be like, what is that? Let's see if we can get it to come out. I mean, I wouldn't do it because I'm too much of an environmentalist, but you know what I mean? I'd do something similar. Right. You know, maybe pick up rocks.
Throw some sort of food to see if you could like lure it.
Yeah.
not realizing it's like,
yeah. And then, of course, I also loved how when it finally does come up on land, it's further down, and like the way the character, they all kind of like turn and they're like, what is that? You know? And it's the monster running towards them, and they all kind of like realize it. And I don't know, that stuff was really fun. That was fun to see a slightly different take, more human. And I also liked that it was happening in broad daylight. Like, so many of these movies are just like so afraid to like actually, like, they're using way too much suspense, and they're doing, and that's the story, as opposed to like
they're building something that can't live up to what they've built.
Right, yeah. And it's also like, and it sort of feels like, you know, you're just watching the movie for the jump scares, and at the end of the day, once that's over, the movie will feel very hollow because very, very little of substance actually occurred, because the whole time you were just on your edge waiting for the next jump scare. Which can be, that's fine sometimes, you know, but
I thought it was weird that, well, one, we get like one big action scene with the monster, and that's about it until the very end.
Yeah.
And it seems like the military wasn't doing anything for a pretty long stretch of time.
Well, that's another thing that's interesting about this movie versus other sort of monster movies, is oftentimes films that are about stuff like this, and like Godzilla movies do this, where it's omnipresent, where you get to see what our main characters are doing, what the military's up to, what other people are up to, what Godzilla's up to, you know? And this one very much sticks to just our heroes. So we don't know what anybody else is up to, really. You know, we know what the little girl is up to and our main character and his family.
The one of the other things with that, and I feel like it was definitely purposefully done, you get a few glimpses of like this intentional design of like the ineptness of the government, and the ineptness of the military in the movie. And I know that was part of making this, was showing like the bureaucracy and the red tape, and how like they're so wrapped up in like policies and stuff that like they can't respond to something like this. It is interesting having the first time I watched it be well pre-COVID, and then the second time I watch it after. I don't know what South Korea's response to COVID was, but it was interesting to see like at a time like that, like 14 years before COVID, like talking about the ineptness of government trying
SARS.
to contain a SARS. But like, I don't know. I think for me in 2006 or 2009 or whenever I saw this, I think SARS was just like a thing that Family Guy made a joke about.
Right. Exactly.
So like, no cultural or historical knowledge of that. Yeah. And then now, being me in 2024, it's like, it's just interesting to see, you know, it's like watching something pre 9/11 and post 9/11, just like things that shift culture so hugely and so profoundly. Going back to review, like, hating on the government for being inept versus like, I don't know. So I know the like military not being in it was definitely like a purposeful thing, along with like the anti-American sentiment. I don't know. I think the first time I watched this movie, I just found it refreshing because I watched a lot of Sci-Fi Channel monster movies, and they're all exactly the same movie. And I had watched but at this time I would have watched Cloverfield. I would have seen at least maybe a Godzilla movie. I don't know. But like any monster movie I had seen was pretty much all the same thing. And then to watch this one where like they like you said, Wes, like they show you the monster immediately.
Yeah.
And then you get into the stuff that like for me is what I love about this movie. You get into the family stuff, you get into like these characters, and you get into like how they're trying to, I feel, kind of realistically launch this weird operation to save his daughter. Because why wouldn't you? You would try anything,
right?
You would try a ridiculous stunt like selling everything you own to like a gangster, or I guess spending everything you have to buy stuff from a gangster so you can go on this like 4-person crusade to find the girl. it was just refreshing, I think, to see it the first time, and then watching it a second time just really, it stuck for me that like this is a Phil movie.
Yeah.
For sure. This is in my like 10 films to bury me with, maybe.
Really? Wow.
I
That's
love this movie. The more I'm talking about it, I'm like, ugh.
Okay, can we go into spoiler territory?
I mean, sure.
Yeah.
We're basically there. So, yeah.
How do you guys feel about the ending?
I definitely liked it. So again,
You like the part where the daughter dies?
Yes, I like.
Oh
child
my God,
asshole.
Phil. Or
That's my
Will.
favorite
Will.
No, I liked that they weren't necessarily successful in what they were,
yeah.
you know, and
Yeah, I love that that's how it ended up.
well, it also felt very much like you were like, yeah, it's weird that she didn't die in the first place, you know, and so like,
Yeah.
And then, you know, he has a new, you know, he gets a new, like he adopts the young boy, you know, and
Yeah. He lost someone, the young boy lost someone, so they like,
it's sort of in
they
a weird
find each
way.
other.
It's a good, I know. And it's very tragic. And I kept expecting her to wake up. Like that was the thing. Like I kept expecting her to start coughing up water or something like that, you know? And she never did.
They really, they committed. And the thing that makes it hurt so much more is that she does this like badass job of surviving.
Yeah. And
until they come to rescue her. She takes this kid under her wing. Well, first she survives on her own for a while, which like everyone else that drops into that pit she's in dies immediately, which like maybe they were wounded more than she was or whatever, but she's a total badass. She survives, and then this kid drops in and he's alive.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I'm going to take care of this kid because I have to. She has the whole plan of like tying the police baton to all of the clothes from all of the dead bodies.
Yeah.
And she like whips it up and she tries to start climbing out. And like, she just does all these things and she survives. And then it makes it hurt so much more.
Right. Yeah.
When she like, not even that the monster comes back and kills her then, that she makes it out to her family and then dies.
Yeah.
What was she eating that whole time she was down there?
That's a great question.
They even ask it themselves, like, "Oh, I wonder what if she's getting enough to eat." It's like,
yeah, I know.
How many days has she been down there?
Well, yeah,
they don't do a great job of showing how many days, and they don't show anything about what she's eating. They do show that she can get water.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably gross water, but she can get water. They don't say anything about food. I mean, she went through all those people's clothes, so maybe somebody had like a Cliff Bar or something.
Yeah.
And she was just nibbling on that. I'm also wondering, did she have her backpack, like a backpack with her? Because she was at the convenience store hut thing. And maybe they're just saying that like she had bags of chips. I don't know.
I just feel like that's something that could have been easily shown for a split second.
And who knows? Yeah. Maybe it was, and they cut it out because they wanted to keep the runtime down.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
Enough.
Like that happens a lot, where it's like, oh, this is a plot hole. It's like, no, it's just something you didn't see. It's not a plot hole.
Yeah.
I think for me, my biggest gripe is they spend a good amount of time talking about Agent Yellow and how it will kill all living things that it comes into contact with. And then the entire family and the monster
survive it,
come into contact with it, and they all survive.
Yeah.
But there's people trapped in that cloud that do not survive.
No, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me, I was like, what are the
rules?
What are the rules of this Agent Yellow, and why is it only working on people that are not our heroes? Maybe there are unintended effects later. They were gonna make a host too at one point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad they didn't. Well,
same.
Who knows? It might have been great, but
what I would love, and I'm probably just gonna suggest this after every movie we watch that I enjoy, is a anime-inspired animated sequel series to this.
So I know. So you know,
it's always my suggestion.
Though. Yeah, no, that's what I realized though. I thought they were going to tease something that the monster survived, because I don't know if you noticed this, during the Agent Yellow fight, a fish pops out of the monster, and lands on the ground.
Oh yeah,
Like a whole fish alive. Like that was like, because it's like a weird mutated thing, and I was like, there. That's how they keep it alive for whatever sequel they might want to do. So I thought we'd see that little fish kind of flop into the water, and like you see a leg on the right side of it as it's swimming away or something.
What year would this movie have had to have come out for it to have a post-credit scene with that? 2008 was Iron Man, right?
Yeah, post-credit things. The little teaser for the sequel. When did that kind of become a thing?
I feel like the MCU pretty much perfected it.
They perfected it, but I don't think they created it.
No, I don't think they created it. But for a movie like this to have had it, I feel like it would have had to have been not right at the beginning of the MCU doing it.
I don't know.
Like
I feel like in the night,
I don't know.
Can't think of anything.
The 98 Godzilla do that?
Yeah, they
but
did.
I don't know if it's a
Not
post-credit.
Yeah, in the post-credits, they did that. They do that where it like shows it. And I feel like that kind of stuff came out in horror movies, was sort of when that became a big thing, like Jason movies or Friday the 13th movies.
Freddy
were
versus
like,
Jason, that has that.
It has that. That's I feel like when that kind of stuff like became really, when the idea of the franchise was really being, you know, teased with, you know, created. I had that sort of like that were older than the Marvel for sure.
So I think we're there, but Phil, why don't you go first? I think I know what your rating's going to be.
I mean, you know it's going to be a 5 out of 5. Did you just pee?
That poor kid.
That poor kid.
I'm so glad he survived.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was like, please don't leave me, I was like, whenever little kids are in distress nowadays, like I just like cannot do it. I remember not caring at all. You know, when kids are, it's like, whatever, it's just a movie, whatever. But like nowadays, it just immediately turns into Jack or Sean. And I'm like, I need to go.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Craig, give me a number A through Z.
A through Z. What was the dish that he was serving and he took one of the legs?
It was just squid, I think.
Oh,
was it just squid?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Should have 10 legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7-legged squid.
4 out of 5 missing squid legs.
Yeah.
But the numbers don't make sense.
If he had taken 2, that would have been the reduced fraction.
It's true.
So this is one of those movies where I feel like I need to watch again and enjoy again and just sort of take in again. But right now I'm definitely, and I want to. So it's not like I was like, oh, I guess I gotta watch this. No. So I'm gonna give this movie a 4.5. Did they lobotomize the main character and it didn't take? Out of 5.
That was weird.
Right?
Like, what happens?
They drilled into his brain, and then after that, he's like, because like, okay, so this is the weird thing. So like, there's this moment which I sort of liked and also was confused by, like where the dad is sort of like reprimanding his other children for making fun of our main character, Gung Lo, I think is his name, something like that. What's that?
Gong Du.
Gong Du, yes. And he basically tells the story of like how Gong Du basically went without food because his dad, like the dad was too much of a partier and like was out with women all the time, so he didn't get enough protein as a kid. So now he needs to take frequent naps, which just to me sounds like some sort of like weird, sort of like Asian, sort of like what's the word? Not trope. Sort of like wives' tale or something. That like something like the idea that like in the Philippines, like if you fall asleep with a fan and the door is closed, you'll die because the fan will take all the oxygen out of the room or something like that. And we have plenty of those as Americans. But it like didn't make any sense. And then so like then later on he gets like his brain drilled into. I was like, wait, did that? And then he's like a badass for the rest of the movie after that. And I'm like, did they fix the the protein problem he had. like I didn't.
Who knows?
I mean, I liked it. I also liked in that scene that everyone was falling asleep on him while he was telling it, and he just kept talking. I don't know. I just liked that his dad loved his boy so much, and I was like, that's nice.
Yeah.
Because so many in the dads are like, "Ah, you're a failure," and the reason why you feel like you're a failure is because I tell you you're a failure. Anyways. So, that was this movie. I believe next week it's my turn, right?
Yeah.
I did want to say, also acceptable for like a rating bit would be like a 5 out of 5. Why was this called The Host?
Oh yeah, it was
Who's hosting what?
Well,
they thought that it was the monster was the host of a new virus.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was all made up for reasons I never really picked up on.
So it's a title that's referencing the government being bad at figuring things out.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work.
Anyways, that's The Host. Yeah. Now we're on to next week, which is Will's pick. Will, is it The Host 2, or is it The Host from 2013 based on the Stephenie Meyer book?
Well, I want to watch I want to watch the original Planet of the Apes movie just because I haven't seen it, and it's like one of those movies. But another film on my list that you guys talked about earlier, that Phil, you said you hadn't seen, and that I also haven't seen, but The Fly. So I want to watch The Fly.
Which one?
The Jeff Goldblum one.
Oh my! You guys are in for a treat.
The super gross one, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I want to watch that. I haven't seen that.
Okay.
I don't know. I want some gore. We didn't get any gore with this movie. I thought we were getting gore, and I was like, I want some.
You're gonna get something, all right.
We're going full Cronenberg.
Yeah. Whoo boy.
All right.
I'm excited.
So yeah. I don't know how to watch it, but we'll figure it out.
I own it, so you're fine. Right. Phil, you're kind of screwed. Sorry.
Oh, really? I thought it was on HBO.
I think I saw it was.
I mean, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I'll just rent it on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for liking and subscribing to the podcast. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. If you want to tell us who the host actually was, because we don't know. I mean, we're 3 hosts, but who was the host? Was it the friends we made along the way? You have to tell us.
So this episode was brought to you by Shannon Brown, who is my sister-in-law. Ooh. Thanks, Shannon. If you want to hear your name shouted outed and are interested in supporting us, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/mumbleandtrug.
If you like what you heard, consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, any of the other platforms we're on, or write it in a bottle and then dump that bottle down a drain, and it'll turn into one of us in a river.
Oh.
This is it's all for this episode. I'm Phil Kessel.
I'm Will Chodas.
And I'm Craig Norland.
I'm the host, not you guys.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I tricked you guys. I made you guys think you might be the host, but it was actually me the whole time.
Oh, wow. You really teased that one out and made it worth the payoff at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought so. I actually went to a class on how to make jokes.
Oh, no. Did you get your money back?
Brought to you by Mumble and Shrug Productions.